You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about Montez Sweat. And, of course, he got traded over from the Commanders as part of their Ron Rivera firing tour. It seems like that they're starting in Washington. We know Josh Harris is sort of already eyeing other potential head coaches, and rumor out there, one could be Bill Belichick, who knows. And we're going to talk about Justin Fields, and that's really where we're going to start because we got a Bears insider here that believes Justin Fields' time with the Chicago Bears, for lack of a better way of putting it, is on life support right now. And I've talked about how much if you're a Bears fan and you love Justin Fields, you're not going to love this, but how much I don't think he's the guy. I always point to one particular stat. If you watch this channel, you know what that's going to be. Completion percentage. It's a problem for Jordan Love right now. Plain and simple, you tend to have naturally good completion percentage, and Justin Fields does not. He is not an accurate quarterback, and I think accuracy is the number one stat that I would look at when it comes to quarterbacks and whether or not they're going to be successful. It's why I will never concede that Cam Newton is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, because he was not an accurate quarterback. And I don't care if he had how many rushing touchdowns he had. I understand that's a thing, but with rushing touchdowns comes more fumbles, etc. Sometimes a lack of pocket awareness as well. Let's look at this. Prominent Chicago Bears insider Jeff Hughes of the Bears blog made it clear earlier this week that it is more likely than not that Justin Fields is playing his last season for this team. Now, this is sportsmockery.com, by the way. This is a really good website out of Chicago. So anyway, guys, I'm going to point something else out here too. The Bears are likely going to have a top kind of pick in this draft, all right? Top 5. We know this is an extremely, extremely deep quarterback draft, probably the deepest quarterback draft in the history of football, or at least since 1983. We all remember that draft. Well, I'm old enough to remember it anyway. So, yeah, the Bears are going to be eyeing a quarterback. And so Justin Fields, unless he can turn things massively around, I think he's in a lot of trouble. I do. All the circumstances are working around towards them being out of the Justin Fields business into a drafted quarterback. Another one. The Bears, man, a long struggle trying to get a quarterback there. Kind of like the Browns, kind of like the Jets. There are multiple reasons that might explain the reasoning. You can start with his ongoing inconsistency as a passer. Fact is, guys, I'd have moved off of him this past season and drafted C.J. Stroud. Outside of his 2 explosive outings against Denver and Washington, he has been largely ineffective. We just looked at his stats. He's 6-25 as a starter. It's bad. I mean, I don't know what else you possibly need. His dislocated thumb marks the 3rd time in 3 seasons he has missed games with an injury. Running quarterbacks, you know how this goes. He's taken 115 sacks in his career with 27 interceptions and 32 fumbles. Guys, that is entirely too many turnovers to remain a starting quarterback in the NFL. Also, while wins aren't solely the quarterback's responsibility, it is a great look. Not a great look that he is 6-25. There we go. He will miss at least one more game, which means there will be 8 games left in the season. Is that enough time to alter his fate? Yes, but not a lot. Hughes isn't the only one who thinks the Fields era is done. Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune said the same. Quote, I believe the Bears use their first pick to select a quarterback. There we go. Right now, the top choices would be USC's Caleb Williams or North Carolina's Drake May, and I recently did a deep dive into each one of them, speaking extensively with evaluators across the league. This isn't a surprise. Ryan Poles didn't draft Fields, which is another indication he probably won't be around. If the opportunity is there to nab a top name in the draft, he has to take it. Many people will say that he got a raw deal. Well, my God, they're still saying that about Trey Lance. And Justin Fields has had a lot more opportunity than Trey Lance did. Fact is, neither one of them were going to work out. I'm going to be real here. He was drafted by a desperate regime trying to keep a playoff window open with an aging roster. They got fired going into his second season, and the replacements decided to blow it up. He hasn't had much help for most of his time in Chicago. However, one can also argue he's his own worst enemy. He doesn't protect the ball well. He lacks ability to throw with timing and is a sack magnet because of his bad tendency to hold on to the ball too long. The fact is the Bears have given him 3 years to at least show something. There have been glimpses, not nearly enough. If I'm being real, I like Mitch Trubisky more than I like Justin Fields. And really and truly, neither one of them are starting quarterbacks in the NFL. You know, one could argue Mitch got a raw deal there. When you look compare him with some of these starter stats around the league, you're like, Mitch is borderline, even right now, a starter in the NFL. Of course, the Steelers are trying to give Pickett every opportunity. It's not going to work out there, okay? So Justin Fields is going to be off somewhere else. Don't sleep on the Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix situation coming out in the draft either. If, for some reason, the Bears string along 3 or 4 extra meaningless victories, which at this point, you got to hope they don't, but that's why this makes this move a little puzzling. My eyebrows raised when they traded for Montez Sweat. I like Montez Sweat, and he's come out, he's made some comments about joining the Bears. We're going to take a look at him as a player. I'm grateful, blessed, happy to be here, said Sweat, who hopes to play Sunday when the Bears visit the Saints. I'm just happy to be here, ready to go to work. Asked to describe himself as a player, the 6'6", 262-pounder said, I think I'm very strong, hardworking, tenacious player who really just wants to get better every day. I know I've still got a long way to go, but I'm happy to be the player I am. So here's the thing. He's got 6.5 sacks this season, folks. 22 solo tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and he's a pretty damn good player. Now, all the while, the Bears, ranked 23 in the league in yards given up, 341 yards. They've only had 6 sacks all year, the entire team. So immediately, he's going to provide more pressure for the Bears, without a doubt. Now, this is defensive edge rushers. This is their grades on PFF, and he is ranked as the 28th best defensive end in the league. You might be like, well, that doesn't sound great. Well, here's some of the names behind him. Danielle Hunter, one of the best defensive players in the league right now, is 34. Joey Bosa with the Chargers is also tied at 34. Hassan Reddick is 36. All right, Matthew Judon, and he was having a hell of a year with the Patriots before he got injured. Brian Burns, who's getting a lot of fanfare out in Carolina land, is number 47, tied for number 47. So Montez Sweat is number 28. So you're getting a hell of a defensive player in Montez Sweat, and you know, I went back and looked at points allowed by the Bears this season, and there's a couple of games that if you'd have had Montez Sweat all year that stand out, that were losses, and you look at the points allowed. Number one, that first game against the Packers. Jordan Love's not very good, okay? He's better than Justin Fields, but not by much. I mean, maybe a couple of 3 positions on the quarterback ranking, but He's not good. Okay, and you're talking about a guy that could have got more pressure on him and caused more chaos. You've got to wonder, I don't think they score 38 points if you got Montez Sweat. Buccaneers, I don't think they score 27 points. What about the Broncos? Is that a win? With Montez Sweat in the lineup, that's a possible win right there. The Vikings, that's another possible win. And obviously, you got the Chargers on here that you gave up a lot of points to. The Commanders. I mean, you start looking at games and you're like, that guy is a defensive playmaker, and you just have to wonder, was he worth at least a win, 2 or 3 on the schedule? Now, I don't know that one defensive player, generally speaking, leads to that kind of impact. It's hard to say a defensive player makes it all the way to an extra win, but add 6.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles to your, and 21 solo tackles to your totals right now on defense. And the guy obviously causes real pressure on quarterbacks, and there's some not great quarterbacks on that list. All right? And some teams that I feel like he's the kind of guy that would have allowed you to have been more competitive against. All right? So one could say, could he have gotten you at least one extra victory? Maybe. And that's a big deal. Over a full season, maybe he's worth two extra victories. That's pretty impressive, So anyway, and I know generally speaking, it's the quarterbacks that really change the win-loss records. But, when your defense is where it's at and you see the lack of pressures, 10 sacks, no, that becomes 16.5. 2 more forced fumbles, and then you see and you feel the kind of impact that can have on your defense. So, anyway, he's a good piece. I was just surprised that they did it because I kind of feel like this coaching staff and this GM, I think they're headed out, ultimately, along with Justin Fields. That's what I would do. There's a lot of Jim Harbaugh fire towards the Chicago Bears right now. I've done a couple of videos on that. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.